Alright guys, what's up? Ndevine back here. And we're going to work on our next build. Or I should say our next builds. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do our helix and our fuse claptons. Those would be the next step after you learn your twisted wires and your claptons. So we're going to start off with the helix. So a helix wire is basically a twisted wire. After you have it twisted, you then take another wire and you twist it up the grooves of the twisted wire. So a better way to explain it is to show you. So what I'm going to do is, instead of just using round wire on this build, we're going to make two claptons, twist them together, so that's our twisted wire. Then we're going to helix some 36 up the spaces. I'm going to try to get as close up as possible to show you guys what's going on and do my best to explain how this is done. So for my claptons, I'm going to be doing 26 gauge claptons. The cores are going to be 26, 34 clapton. I'm going to be doing these two builds without the use of a swivel. This will be the last video I don't use swivels. I want to get about 12 inches stretched of this 26. So I grab it with my needle noses, give it a little tug, and I got a straight piece of 26. Sometimes Kanthal could be a little rough to stretch. So when you're dealing with 26, you might want to use the twist method. But this stretched alright for me, so now I got more than a foot. I love having a roller here. This foot long roller, I use it every day. I'm going to take at 6 inches and cut it. I got two pieces of 26. I'm going to take both pieces at the end and I'm going to put my 90s in them. Those 90s are going to get installed in my drill. So just like we did the claptons in the first video, if you didn't watch the first video, I would go back and check it out. It's not a very long video, but I'm going to do the same thing here anyway. Now I'm going to get my 34. And the same thing I did in my first video. I'm going to get my plastic bag. I got this plastic bag from Kidney Puncher. Some of their spools come in plastic bags, but you could use any Ziploc bag. I use these Ziploc bags. You could get Ziploc bags at the dollar store. I put my 34 in the bag. Bring a strand of it out of the bag, close my bag up enough to where the wire could come out freely but the spool won't drop out, and then I drop this bag between my legs on the floor. If for some reason you're sitting on the floor, you could put it behind you, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm going to grab one of my 26 cores, take my 34, and I'm just going to hand wrap it around my 90 I made. After that, I'm going to grab my drill. I'm going to get that 90 in my chuck. My 26 gauge is sticking out one of my chuck's teeth. So my chuck is grabbing both the 26 and the 34. I'm going to give my 34 a pinch, bring it up to the 26, start off slow, I have my drill in the forward motion. When you build with swivels for so long, you forget how it feels to build without swivels. Got a little shaky there at first. Just going to tighten up my clapton. I see a little gap here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my clapton, but not the core. I'm going to put my drill in reverse, the reverse direction of what I just claptoned. If I hold just the clapton and not the core, it's going to loosen up my clapton a little bit. Now I hold the core with my needle noses and push the clapton down. This just tightened up the clapton. I'm going to bend my core up, put my drill in forward, and tighten my clapton back up. My gap's gone. Now I have a perfect clapton here. I'm going to bend this over just like I showed in the first video so my clapton doesn't slip off, because it is just a spring on a piece of round wire right now. Technically it can just slide off if you're not careful. So now I got one clapton done. If you're comfortable with doing 12 inches clapton, go ahead and do it. With a swivel, that would be super simple to do. Without a swivel, it's a little tougher. So I'm just going to stick to doing it this way right now. Just one wire at a time. Wrap my 34 around my 90. Insert the 90 in my drill chuck. Pinch my 34. Keep my core supported with my hand. Start off slow. This clapton got no spacing, so I don't have to do the loosening up thing. It's all good. I'm going to just bend my core. Snip it a little small. And now I got two claptons. Alright, now we got to twist these up. So now I got both. I got a T there, and that T I'm going to insert into my drill. one wire going out one chuck tooth, the other wire going out another chuck tooth, just like I did in the other video with the twisted wire. Tighten my drill down, get both wires at the end here, grab them with my needle noses, grab them tight, make sure you're grabbing both, pull the tension out of them, see they're straight, pull the tension out, start twisting slow, and then you could speed up. I said it starts to contract in my last video. I should probably explain that. Contracting, it starts to close up. As you twist these, they start to get smaller. You stop feeling that contraction and it's going to break off when it's done contracting. You could stop there. If you're not helixing them, you could flip it over and twist it more. You don't have to put the drill in the opposite direction. You keep it in the same direction and it's going to twist in that direction. Some people think that when you flip it over, that means you have to put the drill in reverse, but that's not true. But for now, I'm not going to twist it anymore. I'm going to leave it like this, and I may twist it after I'm done helixing it. So now helixing. I got my twisting down. Now we're going to work on the helix. So before we work on the helix, I want to show you a close-up of this twisted and kind of explain what a helix is. So there's my two claptons twisted together. With a helix, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thinner wire and with my thinner wire, I'm going to run it up these grooves. I'm going to put my drill in the same direction, twisting it, and ride up these grooves. Since there's two wires, there's two grooves. I'll show you what that looks like when I do just one groove, and then we'll do the next groove. If you have 3 wires, there's going to be 3 grooves. So on and so on. 4 wires, 4 grooves. Right now we just got 2 wires twisted. So we're going to go up this one groove first, and then the second groove. Okay, so I want to do this helixing with 36 gauge. You could do it with the 34, even 32 if that's all you have. I'm going to do it with 36. I'm going to find a place in my chuck to slip the 36 into. And I'm going to start spinning. It's automatically going to fall into this groove. I'm just going to keep spinning the drill and follow that angle as it twists. You kind of just feel it falling in there, and when it makes a mistake, you're going to feel the difference. But I'm just letting it ride right up the groove. It's literally just riding right up it. And this is helixing. Helixing comes into play with other builds later on down the line. That's why it's important to show you. Just going right in that groove. You're kind of seeing an illusion now. Kind of looks like things are standing still, I guess. But I'll show you what the wire looks like when I'm done. I got to the end, I cut my 36 off. Let me show you what this looks like close up. Alright. So you see every other one of them grooves has a wire in there. That 36 right there. So let me get my, there they are. This groove doesn't have the 36. This groove does. This groove doesn't. This groove does. Let's see if I can get some better lighting here. No such luck right now. I think it's good enough. Once I get it completely done, I'll get a nice shot of it. Now for the next helix. This time, I'm going to take my twisted wire out of my drill because I want to make sure I fall in the right groove. I'm going to look here and see what groove's already helixed and what groove isn't. I'm going to go into one of the grooves that isn't and manually helix it back. Because once I fall in that groove, it'll just follow it right up the wire. You literally have to pay attention to feeling. Now I like to hold the spool in my hand as I do this. If you want to cut a length, you can. You basically just want to cut something about 1.5 times the size of your wire right here. So if you have 6 inches, cut a 9-inch piece and that should be good enough to helix up. Twisting in the same directions that I did my twist. Helix up. I'm kind of holding the wire tight so it falls in there and is nice and snug. You don't want it loose. It's a feeling you get. If you ever helix the wire, you know what I'm talking about. You feel when things are right and you feel when things aren't right. If things aren't right, you can reverse and fix it. Alright, made it to the end. I'm going to cut my 36 off. Now I got a fully helixed wire. Now all I want to do is grab this end and I want to give it a little more of a twist, tighten it up a bit now that the helixes are in there. I'm pulling pressure away from the drill and I'm pulling the drill away from my needle noses. Just giving it some twists. That looks good enough to me. I let go. Snip this end. Now I got a helixed rod. I'll show you this close up. Alright, there it is. So 2634 claptons twisted together with 36 gauge helix. Very nice looking wire. Alright. So I guess it's on to the fuse claptons. Alright, now that we're all done with the twisted wire, we're going to move on to fuse clapton. I'm going to do this fuse clapton two different ways. I'm going to do it without the swivel, and then I'm going to show you how I do it with the swivel. I suggest with the swivel, but like I said, when you're starting off and you don't have the swivels, it's not absolutely necessary. So, doing it without the swivel, I'm going to use 28 gauge for my cores. You could use whatever, you could use 26. I'm using 28 for a reason, because I'm going to make a coil out of these two wires when I'm finished up here. So, to get started with my fuse clapton without the swivels, I'm going to take my 28 off the spool, grab it with my needle noses, and I'm going to stretch out about 14 inches. Stretch it, make it straight, and then cut. I'm going to find the halfway point and cut it at 6. I'm going to take both of my wires, and just like I did with my twisted wires, I'm going to make a 90 in each. So the difference between a fuse clapton and a regular clapton is there's 2 cores in a fuse clapton. Alright. So now I'm ready to install this in my drill. I'm going to get my drill, install my 90-degree angles into the teeth of my drill, and close it down. Lock it tight. Alright. Now I'm going to use 36 gauge to clapton this. You could use 34, 32, it doesn't matter. I'm using 36 because it's going to come into play with the build I'm going to do when I'm finished here. Get my 36, put it in the bag, close the bag up just enough so the spool can't come out, but the wire still can, and it spins freely. I'm going to take my 36, I'm going to put it in between. I'm going to put my 36 in between these 2 wires, and then bring it down to the drill chuck. I'm going to hand wrap it around one of the pieces of 28 sticking out of my chuck here. I can then drop the spool on the floor or behind me. It's in the bag. The bag's just going to feed me as I go. And I'm basically going to do this clapton, this fuse clapton, just like I did the clapton. I'm going to pinch the 36, start off slow. Hold these cores up with my hand. Start going. Start off slow until I got the feeling. So unlike a clapton, I can't loosen it up when I'm done and fix it. So if you have any spacing or you go over your clapton wire and kind of go back and you kind of roll over it, just reverse. So you could hold it like this, put the drill in reverse and pull it back, and then you could fix your mistake. Now, as you can see, this is twisting up here, and lots of people think that if it's twisted, it's ruined. It's not. I'm going to show you how to untwist that. Let it twist up, it's fine. Alright, I went back on it. Probably because I changed the way I was holding it. So reverse. So when you're not using a swivel, you have the option of either moving your hand down or moving the drill back. I like to move the drill back. Keep my hand in one place and move the drill, especially since I'm a righty and I hold the drill with my right hand. So now that I got that all finished, and I got these twists here, I don't know if you guys can see that. Alright, you see the wires all twisted up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the end of this wire, hold it with my needle noses, put my drill in the reverse direction from what I was claptoning in. I'm pulling tension away from the drill this way, and I'm pulling the drill that way. And it's just going to untwist them twists a bit. The goal was to get out most of the twists. I'm then going to flip it over. Put a 90 in my wire. Put my drill back in the other direction because it looks like I over twisted it out. I'm just going to play with it here until I see that it's that I got it as untwisted as possible. Once the drill's not doing anything else anymore, I could get a flat pair of needle noses, a toothless pair of pliers, just so it doesn't damage. It's toothless right here. And I could get my ceramics and just grab it with the toothless part. I hold this end down, and I'm using these to untwist whatever way I need, and just move down the wire and do this. So you kind of just walk down it and untwist it as you go. Snip off the bad ends, so I just have one nice piece of wire. I got a fuse clapton there. I'll show you what it looks like in the close-up after I get done the one with the swivel. Now, the one with the swivel, what I'm going to do is use 2636. Now let me just tell you a little bit about swivels. The best swivels to use are called ball bearing swivels. And this is what they look like. Alright, they got a little ball bearing, it's got a hook on one side, and they usually come with another ring on the other side. I took it off because what you do is you get a couple of these and you hook them together. This way, if one swivel goes bad or kind of holds up during your build, the other one will pick up the slack. You put together like 2 or 3 of these. Look online. I mean, you get what you pay for. So the more expensive ball bearing swivels are going to be the better ones. The bigger ones are usually going to be the better ones. But these work great. You do have to replace them every once in a while. You could also oil them. You could oil them with like a pneumatic nailer oil is what I use. You could use WD-40, 3-in-1, whatever. You just oil them every once in a while and they'll spin for you great. I use the US ohm meter spin LT, and I just took a hook of one of my swivels and attached it to that. But these also work great. I love this thing. The only thing you have to watch out for with this is that you keep the drill level and that you keep it going the same direction. Like, you got to be on the same plane as it. So my drill, I built this block so my swivel is perfectly level with my drill when this comes out. I can't have my drill angled coming into it either way. It's got to be dead on or this thing will bind up. That triangle basically gets caught on the side here and binds up. But these 3D printed spin LTs, I just love them. US ohm meters sells them. I think I got this one for like $22 or something. So swivels are just a priority when building. Other than that, while I'm on the subject, other great tools to have: a Coil Master toolkit. This thing has just about everything that you're going to need. Snips, needle noses, ceramic tweezers. These are great for wicking. Screwdrivers, Allen keys, obviously to install builds. Rods to wrap your coils around, all different sizes from like 4.0 to 1.5. Ohm meter, very important, or a device that could read your ohms. I love having an ohm meter. It seems like my regulated devices work much better, especially if you could get a regulated device like a DNA 200 or just a DNA box. Doesn't have to be a 200. Anything that could read like a 0.05. When you start building, you're going to know why that's important to have something like the Twisted Messes box, the Snow Wolf, or a DNA chip that can read a 0.05. because when you start off these builds, they're going to be lower than what they end up. When wire heats up, after you get it glowing all nicely, the ohms do raise. But when they're at them lower ohms, sometimes you have some low coils, and you can't fire it on a mech because it's not safe, and you can't fire it on most regulateds because they don't fire that low. So it's important to have an ohm meter and something that could fire your build safely. If you don't have a regulated device that can read that low, I'd suggest at least a dual parallel box. I would suggest a triple parallel box. This is my triple parallel box, Vape Daddy Customs. Holds 3 batteries, has a voltmeter. That just tells me what my batteries are at under load. This is 3 times safer than using a mech mod. That's a single battery. These 3 batteries are sharing the load of whatever's up here. So a 0.05 isn't really dangerous to be putting on this. It's actually pretty safe. Pretty safe. If you're just pulsing, I should say. Love this box. Hits like a train, and it's just safe for builders. A great tool to have. Nylon pliers. You can flatten your builds without damaging them. I use these every build. Between these and my ceramic tweezers, I use these every build. Other than that, an ultrasonic cleaner. An ultrasonic cleaner is just good to have around the house, really. You can clean your jewelry. You could clean a lot of things. Your RDAs when you first buy them. You should always clean them to get off any machine oil that might be left behind from the machining. Also to clean your builds before you're coloring them or in between vaping them. If you're selling coils, you should probably be ultrasonic cleaning them. Other than that, I'm going to get into more tools as we go along. One of the first tools that I purchased doing the more beginner builds was a jeweler's hammer and a jeweler's block. Jeweler's hammer and a jeweler's block. These are great for flattening builds. I use this block a lot, and you'll see that. You'll notice that I use this block more than the hammer. Good for flattening out builds, just making them look a little shinier, a little flatter, a little neater. Reading glasses or hobby glasses that make your sight. These make my sight 2.5 times better. I don't use them all the time. I use them for small wires, very intricate builds. But it's good to have reading glasses even that you buy at a drugstore. Other than that, I'll get into other tools that I use as the builds come along. Something like the paper quiller for corrugated builds. Paper quiller. Most of the tools are very inexpensive to buy. I mean, I don't think I spent more than 20 bucks on any of my building tools. And I've just acquired more and more as I went along. One more thing I can't go without saying. Drawstring clips. I use these a lot. You'll notice that as well. I use these a hell of a lot. And these type of hair clips I also use a lot. So just lots of just weird little household items that just come in handy. I just love having these. Hot glue and a lighter, another important one. Hot glue and a lighter, you're going to see is going to come in handy very often, especially getting into the more intricate stuff. And, I mean, that's pretty much about it. Swivel and a drill with your snips and your needle noses. Just these 4, I would say, are the most important. I know for a while this is all I had, was a drill and these two. And then I got the swivel, and that's when things really changed. It just was a lot easier to get done them really nice builds. And I'll show you why. So for this fuse clapton, I'm going to do on my swivel, I'm going to do a basic fuse clapton. This is one of the most basic fuse claptons you could do, and it's an awesome vape. This is great for a regulated device, and for a mech mod, in fact. So 26 gauge. I'm going to do dual coil. So what I'm shooting for is 8 inches when I'm all said and done. When you're using a swivel, your round wire is usually going to be bent in half over the swivel and then coming back to the drill. So if I want to finish with 8 inches, I want to start off with my 16 inches. So I got my 12-inch ruler. I'm going to go around 4 inches beyond my 12-inch ruler, 2 inches on each side. Give it a little stretch, straighten it out, snip it. I'm going to take my 26 loop, bend it in half here. I'm going to grab the hook of my swivel. Put the 26 loop in there and pull. I got both ends even right here. Just going to pull. Let me close up my swivel. Alright. I'm going to take both ends and put a 90 in each one. I can just do this with my fingers. Cut off this nasty bit. So I got two 90s coming out, one going left, one going right, just like I did by hand. Get it in my drill tight. Put the drill in the most comfortable position for me, which is forward when doing fuse claptons. Make sure everything's turning with no problems. All good. I'm going to clapton this with some 34. So there's no right or wrong direction to go in. There's also, when doing fuse claptons anyway, there's no right or wrong way to hold your spool. So, also saying that there's no right or wrong way to have your drill or your swivel. Some people think that if you're right-handed, that maybe it would be smart to be holding the drill with your left hand. It's something you might want to try out. There's no right or wrong way. You just got to get comfortable and see what works for you. If you're doing your claptons with no swivel and you see something just ain't feeling right when you're doing it, put the drill in reverse, see if that's better for you. Switch the drill around, see if that's better for you. Just do these different things, because maybe it's just the direction that the drill's going. Maybe it's the way you're holding something. Just try different things if you're not having the best of luck when you're starting out. I'm going to get my 34 gauge, put it in between my two pieces at 26. Drag it down here. Wrap it around one of the pieces of 26 coming out of my drill chuck. Bring my spool below. You can bring it out here, whatever you want. Bring my spool below, and I'm going to try to keep my 90-degree angle. 90-degree angle right here. Start spinning slow. If you mess up and make a big space, you could reverse, go back. So I'm just pinching the spool right here in the middle, and it just turns by itself. Get down at the end here, snip that. Get my 34 put away. Snip it from the swivel. It doesn't twist nearly as much when you have a swivel. Almost none at all, really. Snip it from my drill. Throw away my trash, and that's it. Most people would tell you that fused claptons are probably even easier than claptons, and they're one of the best vapes. It's really just a good build to have, even if you're not a builder. Fused claptons is just a good thing to know. When I recognized fused claptons, I don't vape round builds anymore. I just don't. Then again, once I realized aliens, I don't vape fused claptons anymore, really. Alright, let me show you my wires close up, and then we'll get to wrapping some coils. And basically what I have planned is I'm going to wrap up some basic, just 6 wrap fused claptons, install them. Just a basic, nice build, great vape, one of the best vapes you could get. And then I'm going to do an Inception coil build, and I'll tell you all about that when I get to it. Alright, so there's my twisted helix. Here's my 28 gauge fused clapton. 2836 2-core fused clapton. That was done by hand. And then here's my 3634. 2634, I'm sorry, fused clapton that I did with the swivel. Let me put them fused claptons together so you can see the size difference. So the cores are one size bigger, and the clapton's one size bigger. I should say 2 sizes bigger, each of them. 2836 and 2634. So let's wrap some coils up. Basic 6 wrap fused clapton coils. If my phone will let me zoom in. There you go. Alright. Wrapping some basic coils. So I'm going to do these basic coils. I'm going to put these 2 wires aside. I'm going to do these basic coils with the 2634 fused clapton. I'm going to measure my strand. It's a little over 8, so a little over 4. I'm going to cut it. So I got 2 4-inch pieces. I'm going to wrap these around a 3mm. I have this little wrapping tool, which is also a good tool to have. It has the measurements there. It tells you that this one is 3.5, 3 is right here, And that's what I'm going to do. It's good to have at least 2 rods of each size also. You're going to be doing mostly two coils. It's good to have 2 rods. So a habit you should get into when wrapping coils. If you have a vise, that would be awesome. I'll show you that one day, maybe when doing the staples. But this works just as well as a vise. So I use my needle noses almost as a vise. I hold my strand, get my rod, go down, around, 2 wrap, three wrap, get another pair of needle noses to get it a little tighter if you want. Four wraps, 5 wraps, 6 wraps. Now somebody asked me, and I do see a lot of people somewhat friendly arguing about this, and it's, how do you tell a 3 wrap from a 4 wrap or a 5 wrap from a 6 wrap? And I'm going to tell you, and I'm not even going to question myself or anything, this is how you tell. First of all, I just wrapped around the rod 6 times. That's one way to tell. I'm going to look at my coil dead on. When I look at my coil dead on, I see 6 wraps. When I look at it this way, yeah, I see 5, but it's really 6, because if you just move them up like this, you get 6. When you look at it dead on, you got 6 wraps. That's a 6 wrap coil. How I do my leads is I bend down like an L. So I had them coming both straight out the back, and then I bend one down. I take my needle noses, grab it right there, and bend up. This puts both leads on the same plane. So one's not coming out the top, and one's not coming out the bottom. The only way I don't do this is in a velocity style RDA. Because a velocity style RDA has you set up so you don't have to do this. But don't get me started on velocity style RDAs, because I don't like them. Chances you guys seeing me installing a velocity style RDA is pretty nil. Alright, same thing. That's a 1 wrap coil. That's a 2 wrap. That's a 3 wrap. Four. 5. Now I'm making sure if there's any twist in my wire, I'm untwisting it as it goes around the rod. I'm going to make this lead a little longer by pulling this out and then bringing this down. I got my L. Get my needle noses, push up. There, I got my dual coil fuse claptons. So the two wires are sitting flat. Gives you more surface area than a regular clapton. The clapton wires hold juice. Juice gets sucked into there. The cores heat up before the clapton does. And you just get a ton of flavor. Awesome regulated box build. I love it. I usually do them 36, 26, 36, but 34 is also good. You actually get a little more heat with the 34. Let me see if I can get a close-up and maybe we could see inside there. When you wrap up coils, it kind of opens up some gaps to where, there you go, you can kind of see in there the two cores. Pretty cool. So let's get these mounted and move on to the next build. So I got the Goon 22. That's what I pulled out to put these coils in. I think it's a good device to kind of show. I think if you're getting into building, just get a Goon. It's going to be the best to be putting builds in, especially beginning. I just think it's the best for builders. I mean, at this point, the 1.5's out. Get that one. The 22 has better flavor. You can't put as big of builds in here, but for fuse claptons, it's damn near perfect. So, I open my clamps up all the way without taking my screws out. I'm going to get one of these fuse claptons on the rod. Slip the leads under the clamps. And I'm going to get it pretty tight to the clamps. The back of the coil is pretty tight to the clamps right now. I'm going to tighten down one clamp. I'm going to look at the coil. As you can see, it's tight to the clamps. I mean, it's touching the clamps, and that's okay. I'm going to bring it off the clamps just a hair and snip my leads. Alright. I'm going to open up that clamp. Take that fuse clapton out and put it aside for now. I'm going to get the other fuse clapton. I'm going to do the same exact thing I just did. Get it in the Goon, tight to the clamps. Pull it off the clamps a tad. Tighten down one of the clamps. It's kind of like a dry install I do on each coil before I put them both in. Snip both leads. So in Goons, on wider builds, which is usually what I use, like aliens or staples, frame staples, when I install my coils, my bent lead goes over and the under lead goes under. So if you can't kind of see what I'm doing here, this is how I like to put them in my RDAs. So basically, I got 2 leads on one coil, 2 leads on the other, and they interlock. I don't do this, one over top of another. I do that. So they interlock. This one's over, this one's over, this one's under, this one's under. They kind of interlock there. This build's a little smaller. I'm going to try to do it, but if it doesn't happen, I'm just going to have to kind of mount them to the sides of each other. So I got them both in. Now I'm just going to look at the one side first, the one clamp. Get it tightened down. So that's being held. And I get the other side. Get my over lead over, the under lead of this coil under. Tighten down one side. Go back to this side. You tighten down one screw a little bit. Go to this screw, tighten down that a little bit. Back to the other screw a little bit. This screw a little bit. Then to this clamp. The inside screw a little bit. And the outside screw a little bit. Inside screw, outside screw. Make sure they're all good. Then I can kind of play with them, get them center. I like keeping my coils high, especially on the goon, so the air comes kind of underneath of the coil. There it is. It might could be a little more centered, but I'm not going to waste too much time doing that right now. There she is. If you're seriously interested in a Vape Daddy parallel box, Vape Daddy any box, he makes a couple different ones. I mean, so serious that you're about to order, DM me, and there's a discount code I got for 20 bucks off the boxes. Alright, so I guess I might as well show you guys how I pulse these and wick them up and everything. I wasn't sure if I was going to get into that, but I suppose I will. I gotten this far. I got my Twisted Messes box. I put it at 10 watts before I even put the RDA on. Now, very important when I'm pulsing these, the way I do it, I don't pinch until I get a little further down the pulsing. I'm sure this is a 3mm, yeah. So I'm just going to start off by putting my 3mm in, wiggling a bit before I even pulse. Strumming a little bit. Now I'm going to start pulsing. I'm going to tell you every time, if you can't see, every time I pulse, I'm pulsing at 10 watts. I pulse about 10 times. I go in, I wiggle. I pulse another 10 times. As I'm pulsing, I could strum. I raise the watts up to about 30. I pulse about 10 times. I don't pinch. Not yet. Wiggle. Wiggle. Strum with your ceramics. Your ceramics you could hit while you're pulsing. I'm going to put it up to about 50. I'm starting to see a little bit of yellow color coming out from the 30. Pulse, strum. I should start seeing some kind of glowing soon. There it is. The first glowing you see is going to be any kind of hot spots that are still in it. Hot spots glow first. I strum wherever there's hot spots. Once I start seeing this color, and I'm at 50 watts, I just want to tighten down again. Once I see there's pretty much no hot spots and I'm at 50, I'm going to put it up to like 60, 65. Hot spots are pretty much out, but they're not glowing evenly yet. Now I can start pinching. Pinching almost puts more hot spots into it. That's why it gets out hot spots, is because you're just putting another hot spot somewhere else. And it works, but this is the way I do it. It seems to get the hot spots out quicker, and it works for me. So there you go, glowing evenly. Alright. And we got a 0.18 coil. Coils, 0.18 build. Now that I'm done, I just want to make sure it's tightened up. Give the screws one more tighten. There's no need to really over tighten, but make sure they're tight. All good. Let them cool down. As they cool down, I'm going to grab some cotton bacon. I love cotton bacon. I've used almost every cotton out there. Cotton bacon is fine for me, really. Especially when doing intricate builds that kind of wick by themselves anyway. I almost always do 3mm builds. So me picking cotton off this cotton bacon has just become fairly easy when you do so many 3mm builds. I like to have my wick snug, but not tight. Definitely not loose. And wicking's a thing that you just gotta do and you get better at and better at. It's a lot better wicking these days than it used to be. With cotton balls and silica wick. My coils should be pretty cool now. So I roll up my cotton a bit, stick it through, get my ceramics. I don't really like touching with my hands anything more than that piece. I bring it all the way through till about that point. Get my shears. I cut it to the length to where it's just going to hit the bottom of my dish. And I cut this one to length. This is actually even a little bit looser than I usually like it, but it'll work just fine. This is how I kind of like it, how snug this is. Got a little loose on that one. Bring it there. Snip it. Get these, I kind of comb to straighten out the hairs on the cotton. You don't want to do it too much because then it starts ripping it from the middle of the coil. I'm just straightening out the hairs, then I pull all this excess stuff out that just came out from me straightening out. Tuck in and away from the middle, push it to the side, tuck in, away from the middle. You don't want cotton on the bottom here. You want the air to pass all the way around that coil. Tuck in. It's another good thing about raising your coils up is it gives you more room to tuck that cotton in. That's pretty much it. It's ready to go. Fuse claptons, 0.18 build. Alright. Alright, the Inception coil. So, Inception coil is basically a coil within a coil. So it's taking its name from Inception, the movie, a dream within a dream. Makes sense. So you have a smaller inside diameter coil inside a bigger inside diameter coil. So how I'm going to go about this is I'm going to put my fuse clapton on the inside, my twisted wire, twisted helix on the outside. So that's why I wanted to keep the profile of this fuse clapton small with 2836. Those are small wires. It's going to give me already a small profile, and I'm going to wrap it around a smaller rod so that it fits right inside my other coil. So I'm going to try this with a 2 millimeter inside diameter. That's going to be my smaller coil. I got a couple drill bits here just in case 4 millimeter isn't going to cut it. But I already know that as a wire, twisted wire is very springy, so it's going to open up some anyway, whatever I twist it around. So first, I got to wrap my fuse clapton. So just like I did my other fuse claptons, let me switch my rods real quick. Just like I did my other fuse claptons, I'm going to get my needle noses, use them as a vise to hold my wire stick, and then I'm going to wrap my coil. So you want this coil sticking out the sides of the bigger coil. I want this coil very tight. and very long. So far I got 5 wraps. It looks like I'm probably going to do around 10 wraps. 10, maybe 12. So I got 6, 7, 8. In my experience, Inception coils are really just for looks. You're not going to get a tremendous vape out of them. I think I got 12 wraps here. I'm going to do 13. Bring this around and do 14. So I think I got 14 wraps here. I'd have to go in and count it again to make sure. But I think it's a good start. 14 wrap coil here. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So I got my small coil. 2mm inside diameter. So before I wrap this, I want to make sure what rod I'm going to be using. I don't think 4mm is going to cut it. I could check by just taking my 4mm, putting it up to my coil. It's a little bigger. It's a little bigger. It would probably kind of work with the spring back. But just to be safe, I'm going to use even a size bigger. So this would be equivalent to a 4.5mm inside diameter. I'm going to take my helix wire, get it in my needle nose. Wrap. Man, this is looking like a big inside diameter. So I'm just going to do a 5 wrap here. And there goes my spring back. So no matter what I wrap it on, it's going to go bigger. It's going to have this kind of bounce back. See, if I go like this and hold my leads there, when I let it go, it has this spring back that happens, which is starting to make me think that I could have did this on a 4mm. That's alright. I'm going to be putting this in a goon. Let me just make sure my size would be okay. It's a little big, but it'll work. Yeah, this'll work. I'm gonna get my 4mm just so I could also show you guys what I would do if it was too big. I'm basically just gonna tighten it up. I put it around my 4mm, tighten it. I want a 5 wrap, so I'm doing a 6 wrap because I know when it bounces back I'm going to lose at least 1 wrap. Yep. There it goes. So putting it around the 4mm, since it's a springy wire, it works out just fine. I bent my lead, so it's coming out the same plane. I'm going to show you what both these coils look wrapped up, and then show you how I get the one coil in the other and mount it. So this is what they both look like, all wrapped up. A 14 wrap fused clapton, made at 28 and 36 gauge, and then a 26 gauge core claptoned helix. It's claptoned with 34, helixed with 36. So the 2 wires I did in this tutorial made into an Inception. I'll be putting them in a 24mm goon. So basically I got to get this 14 wrap inside of my big coil. I'm going to bend my lead out a little bit like that. Slip it in the center. And it's pretty much that simple to start off. Get my lead bent back nicely. Nice and normal. And the rest is basically in the install. I'm going to take my 2mm rod, put it inside the smaller coil. I probably should have did this before. I slipped it into the bigger coil, but no big deal. I basically just didn't put my bend in it like I do. So that's what I'm doing now. So I got one coil in the other. Obviously it's loose in there right now, but I'm going to fix that when I mount it. Alright. You just want to make sure there's enough room in there to where they're not touching when all is said and done. And there's going to be plenty of room in there for that. I slip both leads into the goon just like a regular coil. This is what I got started out with. I'm going to go to this side and just tighten the one side down, just so my coil stays in and it's not slipping out on me. Alright, so now I'm going to look at this side, and I'm going to see my coils down a little bit, and it's touching the bottom of my big coil, and I want that to kind of sit up like this. So basically, I'm going to put the fused clapton lead kind of underneath the helix wire. It's going to be a little hard to see, but I kind of slipped it under that helix wire because that kind of pushes my coil up. Now I can see it's kind of forward. So So I'm also going to bring it back. I'm going to slip the rod in here, kind of get the inside coil where I want it, and then tighten down these screws. So this is a build you're probably going to keep playing with until you get the centering right, the outside coil right. Alright, all my screws are tightened down. I don't want to cut all my leads off just yet, just in case I got to pull on them or anything. I want to leave them there. And then I pretty much just go in there, play with it until I got it where I want it, which is right there. You just take your rod, go in there, play with it a little bit. You can play with the big coil a bit until you get it where you want it. Then you tighten everything down. See straight through, nothing's touching. I just got to make sure when you have two wires in here, and the one wire is so much thicker than the other wire, you got to make sure that the bigger wire isn't holding the clamp up so much that your clamp isn't grabbing the smaller wire, like right here. My helix wire is holding the clamp up from clamping down on this 28 gauge. So I got to make sure that I clamp this down the right way. And if not, I got to get that 28 gauge fuse clapton underneath this helix wire so it does close down. Definitely a build you got to wrestle with a little bit to get it exactly where you want it. Definitely a cool looking build though. You just do not want these two touching because you're going to have shorts. So they're touching at the end there. Just keep playing with it until you get it where you want it. And there she is. Just like that. Nothing's touching, so there's going to be no shorts made. Cut my leads. And let me show you what it looks like close up. Alright, alright. Got me a cool little Inception build. Twisted helix on the outside. Use clapton on the inside. Pretty cool. So as you can see, even though you're doing simple coils, you can still make some pretty cool stuff with that. Just gotta get creative. Definitely going to want to take some shots of this and color it up. Not too shabby. Now I know you guys are going to want to see me wick this. Here's the problem, is I want to take pictures of it. So, I think at this point, I suppose I'm going to try to wick it. If it's going too rough, the wicking's going to get edited out. And we're going to have to wick it on the next video before, yeah, we're going to have to wick it on the next video. So, let me see how this goes. But if it's going rough and it looks like I'm going to be squeezing cotton in there, then I'm not going to be able to get it out too easy without it being wet, then, yeah, we're going to have to save it for the next one. So I'm going to try. I know ideally these guys would like to see it in this video. So like I said, ideally not the best vape you're going to get out of this, but I still want to show you guys how to wick it. So, obviously you would glow it up, get everything glowing evenly, get the inside glowing from the inside out, and the outside coil glowing from the middle out also. After that, you're going to be ready for your wicking, and there's no really right or wrong way to wick a build. You could just wick in between the two coils and leave the inside coil not wicked, but the way I normally do it is I wick both coils. So I wick between the two and then through the smaller coil. You basically just got to get creative. First, I'm going to do in between the coils. I'm going to get a small strand of cotton. And the goal is just to get it through there first. And get it out to the other side. Now, as you pull it through, I kind of flag it out wrap this part around the top to the back. Because most likely, I'm going to have to do this twice. One on the top back and one on the front bottom. So I got it on the top back. I'm going to get my little tweezers here. Just try to open it up in there. Pull this back, and I'm going to get another piece of wick. So I got 2 strands here, 2 small strands, and I'm going to twist them up. And I'm going to send that through the just going to send this one through here. Grab it with my tweezers, pull it through as it's coming through, fan this all out. This way it's touching all inside. And that's pretty good, just like that. This away from the middle here. See the little smaller coil inside there, but everything's touching on the inside here. Can move it around. And then I take one more piece of cotton. That could go into that 2mm. Get that ready. Snip these a little smaller. Typically I don't see these ones down in the dish. I only see the middle one down in the dish. Make sure I got a nice pathway. So I'm going to stick my rod through there. Sometimes little hairs get stuck there from the cotton. It's hard to send the center cotton through. There it goes. So I know I'm running out of space, and my video is going to shut off soon. So thanks for watching, guys. Look out for the next one. I guess the next one's going to be like half staggers and stagger fuse claptons, or staples, or both. Follow me on Instagram, ndevine83. You need wire, go to Pure Atomist. Check out Zombie Z Liquid.